Aloha, howdy, hello. I hope you all are doing well. So, things took longer than I thought they would. Sorry about that. Bruins. But I'm here. So, we're going to start with Scary Stories Told in the Dark, number 3. More Tales to Chill Your Bones. I'm going to skip the first one. It's not, I guess I could read the first one. It's short. Let me show you the book. This is the book. It's by Schwartz. I think what makes these books so good, or made them so good when I was a kid, was the illustrations. Like some of the books I read, I'll do on StreamYard because the illustrations just, there are none. But for this specific series, I think that going through them visually as well as auditory is pretty important. Like I've found on YouTube that the book is read, but you don't get anybody flipping through the pages. And for me, when I'm trying to relax, it's the page turning that I like the most. It's what makes a book a book. You know, I'm not really into audiobooks, but there's just something about the sound of a page turning. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm going to turn your thunderstorm back on. And we'll get it started. I'm going to turn it down though, because I don't want to have to scream at you over the thunderstorm. Wouldn't exactly be relaxing. I'm going to keep the phone on the illustration because I can read the words. A 16-year-old boy worked on his grandfather's horse farm. One morning he drove a pickup truck into town on an errand. While he was walking along the main street, he saw death. Death beckoned to him. The boy drove back to the farm as fast as he could and told his grandfather what had happened. "Give me the truck," he begged. "I'll go to the city. He'll never find me there." His grandfather gave him the truck, and the boy sped away. After he left, his grandfather went into town looking for Death. When he found him, he asked, "Why did you frighten my grandson that way?" "He is only 16. He is too young to die." "I'm sorry about that," said Death. "I did not mean to beckon to him, but I was surprised to see him here. You see, I have an appointment with him this afternoon in the city." Oops. That kind of backfired, didn't it? This one's actually pretty good. Ed Cox was driving home from work in a rainstorm. While he waited for traffic light to change, he saw a young woman standing alone at a bus stop. She had no umbrella and was soaking wet. "Are you going towards Farmington?" he called. "Yes, I am," she said. "Would you like a ride home?" "I would," she said, and got in. "My name is Joanna Finney. Thank you for rescuing me." "I'm Ed Cox," he said, "and you're welcome." On the way, they talked and talked. She told him about her family, her job, and where she had gone to school, and he told her about himself. By the time they got to her house, the rain had stopped. "I'm glad it rained," Ed said. "Would you like to go out tomorrow after work?" "I'd love to," Joanna said. She asked him to meet her at the bus stop since it was near her office. They had such a good time. They went out many times after that. Always they would meet at the bus stop, and off they'd go. Ed liked her more and more each time he saw her. But one night, when they had a date to go out, Joanna did not appear. Ed waited at the bus stop for almost an hour. Maybe something's wrong, he thought, and he drove to her house in Farmington. An older woman came to the door. "I'm Ed Cox," he said. "Maybe Joanna told you about me. I had a date with her tonight. We were supposed to meet at the bus stop near her office, but she didn't show up. Is she all right?" The woman looked at him as if he had said something strange. "I'm Joanna's mother," she said slowly. "Joanna isn't here now, but why don't you come in?" Ed pointed to the picture on the mantel. "That looks just like her," he said. "It did once," her mother replied. "But that picture was taken when she was your age, about 20 years ago." A few days later, he was waiting in the rain at the bus stop. A car hit her, and she was killed. So basically, he dated a ghost. That's unsettling. I've seen some ghosts that have looked pretty damn real, like pretty fucking corporeal, basically. Ooh, faster and faster. This legend is actually an old Celtic legend if you look it up. It's loosely based on the Irish folktale of the horseman. It's changed up a bit, but you'll see. Sam and his cousin Bob went walking in the woods. The only sounds were leaves rustling and now and again a bird chirping. "It's so quiet here," Bob whispered. But that soon changed. After a few minutes, the two boys started whooping and hollering and chasing one another around. Sam ducked behind a tree. When Bob came by, Sam jumped out at him. Then Bob raced ahead and hid behind a bush. When he looked down, there was at his feet an old drum. "Sam, see what I found," he called. "It looks like a tom-tom. I bet it's 100 years old." "Look at the red stains on it," said Sam. "I bet it's somebody's blood. Let's get out of here." But Bob could not resist trying the drum. He sat on the ground and held it between his legs. He beat on it with one hand and the other, and slowly at first, then faster and faster, almost as if he could not stop. Suddenly there were shouts in the woods and the sound of hoofbeats. A cloud of dust rose from behind the line of trees. The men on horseback galloped toward them. "Bob, let's go," Sam shouted. He began to run. "Hurry!" Bob dropped the drum and ran after him. Sam heard the twang of a bow firing an arrow. Then he heard Bob scream. When Sam turned, he saw Bob pitched forward, dead. But there was no arrow in his body, and there was no wound. And when the police searched, there were no men on horseback. And there were no hoof prints, and there was no drum. The only sounds were leaves rustling and, now and again, a bird chirping. I'm going to do this about as long as I can. My battery is starting to heat up on my phone. I need to replace my phone. Some fellows yeeted my phone a couple of times onto the ground by accident. AKA, they've dropped my phone about 100 times. Ew. This one I remember from when I was a kid. I was like, ew, gross. And swap hands. Hey, Harry. George Flint loved to eat. Each day at noon, he closed his camera shop for a few hours and went home for a big lunch. His wife, Mina, cooked for him. George was a bully, and Mina was a timid woman who did everything he asked because she was afraid of him. On his way home for lunch one day, George stopped at the butcher's shop and bought a pound of liver. He loved liver. He would have Mina cook it for dinner that night. Despite all his complaints about her, she was a very good cook. While George ate his lunch, Mina told him that rich old woman in town had died. Her body was in the church next door. It was an open coffin. Anyone who wanted to see her could, as usual. George was not interested in what Mina had to say. "I've got to go back to work," he told her. After he left, Mina began to cook the liver. She added vegetables and spices and simmered it all afternoon, just the way George liked it. When she thought it was done, she cut off the small piece and tasted it. It was delicious, the best she had ever made. She ate a second piece and then a third. It was so good, she could not stop eating it. It was only then, when the liver was all gone, that she thought of George. He would be coming home soon. What would he do when he found that she had eaten all of the liver? Some men would laugh, but not George. He would be angry and mean, and she did not want to face that again. But where could she get another piece of liver that late in the day? Then she remembered the old woman lying in the church next door, wanting to be buried. Oh no. Oh no, oh no, no. No, no, Mina. No eating people, Mina. Oh Lord. Okay. George said he never had better dinner. "Have some liver, Mina," he said. "It's just delicious." "I'm not hungry," she said. "You finish it." That night, after George had fallen asleep, Mina sat up in bed trying to read, but all she could think about was what she had done. Then she thought she heard a woman's voice. "Who has my liver?" it asked. "Who has it?" Was it her imagination? Was she dreaming? Now the voice was closer. "Who has my liver?" it asked. Who has it? Mina wanted to run. No, no, she whispered. I don't have it. I don't have your liver. Now the voice was right next to her. Who has my liver? It asked. Who has it? Mina froze with terror. She pointed at George. He does, she said. He has it. Suddenly the light went out and George screamed and screamed and screamed. Apparently, the lady wanted her liver back. Hey, April. Who has my liver? Shiver me timbers. I'd be pissed if I were dead and like some chick came over there and ate my liver. I would not be a happy camper. Tom Connors was on his way to the dance in the next village. Sorry. It was a long walk through the fields and woods, but it was soft, sweet evening that he loved dancing so. But it was a soft, sweet evening, and he loved dancing, so Tom didn't mind. He had gone only a short distance when he noticed a young woman following him. Maybe she's going to the dance, he thought, and he stopped and waited for her. As the woman got closer, he saw that it was Kate. Kate Faraday. They had danced together many times. He was about to call, "Hello, Kate," when suddenly he remembered that Kate was dead. Oh, shit. She had died last year. Yet there she was, all dressed up for the dance. Tom wanted to run, but somehow it didn't seem right to run from Kate. He turned and started to walk away as fast as he could, but Kate followed him. He took a shortcut across the field, but still, she followed. When he got to the dance hall, she was right behind him. There were a lot of people standing outside, and Tom tried to lose Kate in the crowd. He worked his way to the side of the building, then squeezed up against a wall behind some people. But Kate followed. She came so close she brushed up against him. Then he stopped and waited. He wanted to say, "Hello, Kate," just the way he did when she was alive, but he was so frightened he couldn't speak. Her eyes looked into his, and she vanished. Yeah, I would shit a brick. No, thank you. Oh, the black dog. Hey, Cupid. The black dog's a good one. It was 11 o'clock at night. Peter Rothberg was in bed on the second floor of his old house where he lived alone. It had gotten so chilly he went downstairs to turn up the heat. As Peter was on his way back to bed, the black dog ran down the stairs. It passed him and disappeared into the darkness. "Where did you come from?" Peter said. He had never seen the dog before. He turned on all the lights and looked in every room. He could not find the dog anywhere. He went outside and brought the two watchdogs he kept in the backyard, but they acted as if they were the only dogs in the house. The next night, again, at 11 o'clock, Peter was in his bedroom. He heard what sounded like a dog walking around in the room above him. He dashed upstairs and threw open the door. The room was empty. He looked under the bed. He looked in the closet. Nothing. But when he got back to his bedroom, he heard the dog running down the stairs. It was the black dog. He tried to follow it, but again, he could not find where it had gone. From then on, every night at 11, Peter heard the dog walking in the room above him. The room was always empty, but after he left, the dog would come out, hiding and run down the stairs, and disappear. One night, Peter's neighbor waited with him for the dog. At the usual time, they heard it above them. Then they heard it on the stairs. When they went out into the hall, it was standing at the foot of the stairs looking up at them. Hey, Fallen. Woo, doggo. Woo, doggo. The neighbor whistled and the dog wagged its tail. Then it was gone. Things went on that way until the night Peter decided to bring his watchdogs into the house again. Maybe this time they would find the black dog and drive it away. Just before 11 o'clock, he took them up to his bedroom and left the door open. Then he heard the black dog moving around above him. The dogs pricked up their ears and ran to the door. Suddenly, they bared their teeth and snarled and backed away. Peter could not see the black dog or hear it, but he was sure it had entered the room. His dogs barked and snapped. They darted forward nervously and backed away again. Suddenly, one of them yelped. It began bleeding, then dropped to the floor, its neck torn open. A minute later, it was dead. Peter's other dog backed into the corner, whimpering. Then everything was still. The next night, Peter's neighbor came back with a pistol. Again, they waited in his bedroom. At 11 o'clock, the black dog came down the stairs. As before, it looked up at them, wagged its tail. When they started toward it with a pistol, it growled and disappeared. That was the last Peter saw of the black dog, but it did not mean the dog was gone. Now and then, always at 11, he heard it moving around above him. Once he heard it running down the stairs. He never managed to see it again, but he knew it was still there. Hey, Tammy. Ooh, footsie steps. Footsie steps. Liz was doing her homework in the dining room table. Her younger sister Sarah was asleep upstairs. Their mother was out, but she was expected back any minute. When the front door opened and shut, Liz called, "Hello, Mama," but her mother didn't answer, and the footsteps Liz heard were heavier, like a man's. "Who's there?" she called. No one replied. She heard whoever it was walk through the living room and then up the stairs to the second floor. The footsteps moved from one bedroom to another. Again, Liz called, "Who's there?" The footsteps stopped, and then she thought, "Oh my God, Sarah is in her bedroom." She ran upstairs to Sarah's room. Only Sarah was there. She was asleep. Liz looked in the other rooms, but found no one. She went back down into the dining room and scared out of her wits. Soon as she heard footsteps again, they were coming down the stairs into the living room. Now they went into the kitchen. Then the door between the kitchen and the dining room slowly began to open. "Get out!" Liz screamed. The door slowly closed. The footsteps moved out of the kitchen and through the living room towards the front door. The door opened and shut. Liz ran to the window to see who it was. No one was in sight, nor were there any footsteps in the fresh snow that had been falling. April is a good person. As Jim Brand lay dying, his wife left him with his nurse and went into the next room to rest. She sat in the dark, staring into the night. Suddenly, Mrs. Brand saw headlights come rapidly up the driveway. "Oh no," she thought. "I don't want visitors now. Not now." But it wasn't a car bringing a visitor. It was an old hearse with maybe a half a dozen small men hanging from either side. At least that's what it looked like. The hearse screeched to a stop. The men jumped off and stared up at her, their eyes glowing with soft yellow light like cat's eyes. She watched with horror as they disappeared into the house. An instant later they were back, lifting something into the hearse. Then they drove off at a high speed, wheels squealing, the gravel in the driveway flying in all directions. At that moment, the nurse came in to say that Jim Brand was dead. Yeah, no thank you. Let's see if... Hang on. See if the toe one is in here. Here's Harold, I think. Here's the dead hand. Yep, here's Harold. I like this one. I'm trying to get this thing to cooperate. Okay. This was in the movie, by the way. When it got hot in the valley, Thomas and Alfred drove their cows up to the cool, green pasture in the mountains to graze. Usually they stayed there with the cows for 2 months. Then they brought them down the valley again. The work was easy enough, but oh, it was boring. All day, the 2 men tended their cows. All night, they went back to the tiny little hut where they lived. They ate supper and worked in the garden and went to sleep. It was always the same. Then Thomas had an idea that changed everything. "Let's make a doll the size of a man," he said. "It would be fun to make, and we could put it in the garden to scare away the birds." "It should look like Harold," Alfred said. Harold was a farmer they both hated. They made the doll out of old sacks stuffed with straw, and they gave it a pointy nose like Harold's and tiny eyes like his. Then they added a dark hair and twisted frown. Of course, they also gave it Harold's name. Each morning on their way to pasture, they tied Harold to a pole in the garden to scare away the birds. Each night they brought him inside so that he wouldn't get ruined if it rained. When they were feeling playful, they would talk to him, and one of them might say, "How are the vegetables growing today, Harold?" Then the other, making believe he was Harold, would answer the crazy voice. Very slowly they both would laugh, but not Harold. Whenever something went wrong, they took it out on Harold. They would curse at him and even kick him or punch him. Sometimes one of them would take food they were eating, which they both were sick of, and smear it all over Harold's face. "How do you like that stew, Harold?" he would ask. "Well, you'd better eat it or else," and then the two men would howl with laughter. One night, after Thomas had wiped Harold's face with food, Harold grunted. "Did you hear that?" Alfred asked. "It was Harold," Thomas said. "I was watching him when it happened. I can't believe it." "How could he grunt?" Alfred asked. "He's just this sack of straw. That's not possible." "Let's throw him in the fire," said Thomas, "and that will be that." "Let's not do anything stupid," said Alfred. "We don't know what's going on. When we move the cows down, we'll leave him behind. For now, let's just keep an eye on him." So they left Harold sitting in the corner of the hut. They didn't talk to him or take him outside any more. Now and then the dog grunted, but that was all. After a few days, they decided there was nothing to be afraid of. Maybe a mouse or some insects had gotten inside Harold, and they were making those sounds. So Thomas and Alfred went back to their old ways. Each morning they put Harold out in the garden. Each night they brought him back into the hut. When they felt playful, they joked with him. When they felt mean, they treated him badly as ever. Then one night Alfred noticed something that frightened him. Harold was growing, he said. "I was thinking the same thing," Thomas said. "Maybe it's just our imagination," Alfred replied. "We have been up here on this mountain too long." The next morning, while they were eating, Harold stood up and walked out of the hut. He climbed up on the roof and trotted back and forth like a horse on its hind legs. All day and all night long he trotted like that. In the morning, Harold climbed down and stood in the far corner of the pasture. The men had no idea what he would do next. They were afraid. They decided to take the cows down the valley that same day. When they left, Harold was nowhere in sight. They felt as if they had escaped to great danger and began joking and singing, but when they had gone only a mile or two, they realized they had forgotten to bring the milking stools. Neither one wanted to go back for them, but the stools would cost a lot to replace. "There really is nothing to be afraid of," they told one another. "After all, what could a doll do?" They drew straws to see which one would go back. It was Thomas. "I'll catch up with you," he said, and Alfred walked on toward the valley. When Alfred came to the rise of the path, he looked back for Thomas. He did not see him anywhere, but he did see Harold. The doll was on the roof of the hut again. As Alfred watched, Harold kneeled and stretched out a bloody skin to dry in the sun. "Hey, Rapper. Are you like story time?" I'm glad. I just figured it would help people relax. It's kind of like an ASMR. I figured why not, you know? I like reading and y'all like stories. I'm going to try to find another one I like. Harold was probably one of my favorites. I want to find the toe one. So where the kid finds a toe and eats it, basically. come one or two. Huh. I think this one's called the Hag. Must be in the other one. Nope, it's not nasty. It's delicious. Magically delicious. Dead man's toes. Ashen bones. I know it's in there. Ooh, the sausage. Ooh, y'all aren't gonna like that one. Alright, we'll do the bride first. But I gotta get something to drink. I didn't eat Lori's toes. Harry did. The minister's daughter had just gotten married. After the wedding ceremony, there was a great feast with music and dancing and contests and games, even old children's games. When they got to playing hide and seek, the bride decided to hide in her grandfather's trunk up in the attic. They'll never find me there, she thought. As she was climbing into the trunk, the lid came down and cracked her in the head, and she fell unconscious inside. The lid slammed and the shut and locked. No one will ever know how long she called for help or how hard she struggled to free herself from that tomb. Everyone in the village searched for her, and they looked almost everywhere, but no one thought to looking in the trunk. After a week, her brand new bridegroom and all of the ones gave her up for lost. Years later, a maid went up into the attic looking for something she needed. Maybe it's in the trunk, she thought. She opened it and screamed. There lay the missing bride in her wedding dress, but by then, she was only a skeleton. Rings on her fingers. Daisy Clark had been in a coma for more than a month when the doctors said that she had finally died. She was buried on a cool summer day in a small cemetery about a mile from her home. May she always rest in such peace, her husband said, but she didn't. Late that night, the grave robber, with a shovel and a lantern, began to dig her up, since the ground was still soft. He quickly reached in the coffin and got it open. His hunch was right. Daisy had been buried with two valuable rings, a wedding ring with a diamond in it, and a ring with a ruby in it that glowed as if it were alive. The thief got down to his knees and reached into the coffin to get the rings, but they were stuck fast on her fingers. So he decided that the only way to get them was to cut off her fingers with a knife. But when he cut into the fingers with a wedding ring. It began to bleed, and Daisy Clark began to stir. Suddenly she sat up, terrified. The thief scrambled to his feet. He accidentally kicked over the lantern, and the light went out. He could hear Daisy climb out of the grave. As she moved past him in the dark, he stood there frozen with fear, clutching the knife in his hand. When Daisy saw him, she pulled her shroud around and asked, "Who are you?" When the grave robber heard this corpse speak, he ran. Daisy shrugged her shoulders and walked on. He never once looked back, but in his fear and confusion, the thief fled in the wrong direction. He pitched headlong into her grave, fell in on the knife, and stabbed himself while Daisy walked home. The thief bled to death. Oops. Oops. Talk about instant karma. Wonderful sausage. This could be taken out of context. This could be so easily taken out of context. This is wonderful sausage. I'm not kidding. Okay. One dark, rainy Saturday afternoon, a fat, jolly butcher named Samuel Blunt had an argument over money with his wife, Eloise. Blunt lost his temper and killed Eloise. Then he ground her up into a sausage meat and buried her bones under a big fat rock in the backyard. To keep the murder secret, he told everyone that she had moved away. Blunt mixed his new sausage meat with pork, then seasoned it with salt and pepper, added some sage and thyme and a bit of garlic to give it special flavor. He smoked it in his smokehouse for a while. He called it Blunt's Special Sausage. There was such a demand for his new sausage that Blunt bought the best hogs he could find and started raising his own pork. He also kept a sharp lookout for humans who might make tasty sausage meat. One day, a nice plump schoolteacher came to his shop. Blunt grabbed her and ground her up. Another time, Blunt's dentist came by. He was a little round man, and to the grinder he went. Then one by one, the children in the neighborhood began to disappear, and so did their kittens and puppies, but no one ever dreamed that Blunt the butcher had anything to do with it. Things went on that way for years. Then one day Blunt made a big mistake, and the fat boy came into the butcher shop. Blunt grabbed him and started to drag him off to the sausage grinder, but the boy broke loose and ran out of the shop, and Blunt chased after him, waving a butcher knife. When people saw this, they realized at once what had become of all the missing children, grown-ups, and kittens and puppies. An angry crowd gathered at the butcher shop. No one knows for sure just what happened to Blunt that day. Some say he was fed to his hogs. Others say he was fed to his sausage grinder, but he was never seen again, and neither was his wonderful sausage meat. Ew. Ellen had just fallen asleep when she heard a strange voice. "Ellen," it whispered, "I'm coming up the stairs. I'm on the first step. Now I'm on the second step." Ellen got scared and called her parents, but they didn't hear her, and they didn't come. Then the voice whispered, "Ellen, I'm on the top step. Now I'm in the hall. Now I'm inside your room." Then it whispered, "I'm standing right next to your bed." And then, "I've got you!" Ellen screamed, and the voice stopped. Her father rushed into the room and turned on the light. "Somebody's in here," Ellen said. They looked and looked, and nobody was there. Alright, where is the story I'm looking for? Dead Man's Hand. The students at the school for nurses got along quite well with one another, except for Alice. The trouble with Alice was that she was perfect. At least, that's how it seemed to the other students. She was always friendly and always cheerful. Nothing ever upset her. Her school assignments were always on time and always perfect. She didn't even bite her fingernails. Many of the student nurses resented Alice. They would have liked to see her fail something, become frightened or cry or do something that showed that she had weaknesses like they did. One night, several students tried to frighten Alice with a practical joke. They borrowed the hand of a corpse they had been studying anatomy and tied it to the light cord in her closet. When she tried to turn on the light, she would find herself holding a dead man's hand. "That would scare anybody," one of them said. "If it doesn't scare her, nothing will." After trying the hand in place, they went to the movies and they got back. Alice was asleep, but when they didn't see her the next morning, they decided to find out what had happened. There was no sign of Alice in her room, but they soon found her. She was sitting on the floor in her closet, staring at the dead man's hand and mumbling to herself. Alice didn't even look up. The joke had worked, and nobody was laughing. "What's the matter, Cupid? Did I scare you?" Oh, my hands are tired, guys. My battery is overheating, so I'm gonna start StreamYard and we're gonna go over a few things that need to be talked about. And then we're gonna have a little bit of fun. Trying to I watched Legally Blonde last night. It was pretty good. I think we're gonna watch some Lori for a minute. Alright. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Tomorrow we will do another scary stories told in the dark. But for now I'm gonna end this stream and I'm gonna start the other stream, which will be about ooh, Natasha Cooper is live. What's she bitching about? Huh. Anyway, I'll be back. Love you guys. Bye.